Hello, you're up next, sir. Joseph?
All right, so I guess let's just dive in, huh?
Yep.
Hero has 6-5 of clubs in middle position.
All right, well, what about
We're
the
oh yeah,
level of
sorry.
the
Yeah,
where's this
okay.
played
I'll
out of, game, all that
give you the
shit?
stakes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so it's 136, no limit at Rivers Casino in Philadelphia.
Ah, Rivers, okay. In
Yeah.
Philly. Michael
Um,
G's stomping ground.
yeah,
Moderator
yeah, yeah,
extraordinaire. And how deep are you
definitely.
guys?
3,100 effective.
Oh, wow, really deep, okay.
Yeah, very deep.
Yep.
So middle position, Hero in opens to 20.
Okay.
Cutoff, who is a reg that I play with. I would say probably he's probably the most play. He's probably the player I play with the most often.
Okay.
So we it's kind of a leveling war between us whenever we play against each other. So I figured I'd note that before we got into the action.
Okay.
Um, so he three bets to 65 in the cutoff.
Okay.
Um, Folds back to me. I just call.
All right, so hero calls. Direct suited connector heads up. Okay, so the pot's like maybe 140 with all that blinds and stuff, something like that.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
give or take a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so the flop comes king of clubs, nine of clubs, eight of spades.
So hero flops. Hero has 5, 6 of clubs, defends to a 3-bet, MP versus cutoff, and it's king of clubs, 9 of clubs, 8 of spades. So hero has a combo draw, but kind of on the bottom
Yes.
end of a combo draw, right, with a low flush draw, and then sort of the bottom end of a
Of the
gut shot
gutter.
that they could become relevant because it makes Jack 10 if a 7 were to come in. I mean, we've seen crazier things than somebody 3-betting with Jack 10 suited, right? So it's just something of
Right,
note.
correct.
Yep.
Yeah. And this player specifically is definitely capable of three betting uh, more wide than the average recreational player.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, anyway, okay. So I check middle
Mm-hmm.
position.
Mm-hmm.
Cutoff bets little south of half pot. He bets 65.
Okay.
I decided to check raise
Mm-hmm.
to 235.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
I like it on the surface of there. I think that you will see a lot of people bet these king high board. You know, it used to be a situation where people would always check back jacks and queens and stuff like that, right? But
Right.
you will see people make, like, you know, quote unquote range bets or bets because it's a 3-bet pot in a given scenario and fold. Right now, what's interesting though is how often is jacks and queens supposed to fold, especially with a club. I feel like people sometimes
Yeah.
they
Not very
understand this
often.
and they'll find the defend. So, you know, on the surface I kind of like it, but at the same time I do wonder how many bet folds that you're going to necessarily get. With that being, and the other thing too, I almost like this play more multi-way. And I know we're talking about a 3-bet pot, but it's like I like this, like if it was a single raise pot and it was like 3 or 4 handed and you could clean up some of your outs, right? Because like if you check raise the pre-flop raiser in a single raise pot with a bunch of people behind you, then you don't really have to worry about lingering higher club draws and Jack 10. But when your heads up, you know, all those hands are going to continue anyways, right? Jack 10 and clubs are going to
Right.
continue anyways. So, and the other thing too that you have to obviously think about is, well, what hands do I, you know, how much value can I represent? Now, it's not like it's king nine deuce. I like this a lot better when there's two pair that's possible. I mean, there's two combos of 9-8 if you defend to a 3-bet, which, I mean, 9-8 is kind of somewhat of a troublesome suited connector, but a lot of people are going to defend here. You
Yeah.
probably don't have king nine suited. So you're kind of left with, okay, well, I've got nines, eights, that's 6 combos, 9-8. You can also play ace king this way too sometimes, which adds a
Yeah.
lot of other combos of hands. So, you know, if you have that much value, you can start going down into the weeds, and if you truly wanted to balance and start adding some of these draws. So I'm not 100% sure if like 5, 6 of clubs would specifically be check raise. The reason why is I remember from doing we used to do, you know, the top section podcast back in the day, and I remember this was several years ago though, the deeper that you are in no limit, not only are you at a positional disadvantage, the theory sort of didn't favor bloating pots up where you can be on the reverse end of coolers, which I can
Okay.
see this can happen here because of what we talked about. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like you could be on the
Yeah.
reverse end of a cooler here. So
Like
that
I could,
you,
yeah, I could get there and still
yeah,
not be good a lot of the time. Understood.
yeah. Well, I mean, just some of the time though, at this
Yeah.
stack depth. I mean, it is.
Right.
I mean, it's 500 big blind. It's not like but that's just something off the top of my head. So, I mean, I said I liked it at first, but I think for those reasons, now that I talk it through, I might be doing more calling. But I would like it more in a single race pot multi-way for the reasons that I'm talking about.
Yeah. Understood.
So you make it 235, okay?
Yeah. And one thing I probably should note is like, I guess I didn't really think about. I was kind of at first I was kind of fine with my check raise, but after talking about it a little bit more, I feel like I'm probably gonna get continues out of this specific player with a wide variety of hands. So maybe I can lean a little toward like exploitative thinking. Like I can lean a little bit more towards value instead of like my semi bluffs in this spot. But I
You
don't
can
know. Maybe
also,
that's
I mean, the other thing too is that you can also. Well, there's a couple things that can happen too, right? Like when you call his bet, he might just check back a blank turn, which kind of gives you like a lot of green lights to bet. Say like it's a red deuce on the turn, right? And
right.
you can bet the river, or you can wait till check raise on the turn. Here's the thing. So you're going to get a lot of continues here on the flop, right? But if he bets a red deuce on the turn, I see that not only does that not, he could bet a red deuce on the turn and still just be barreling. Just because he bets a red deuce on the turn, he just recognizes that it's just totally disconnected, right, from the board.
Correct.
So he doesn't
Yeah.
always have to have something, right? And of his sort of hands that even he is betting for value, you'll get more folds on the turn than you will on the flop. So that's another reason to wait.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So cutoff calls,
Okay.
right? Cutoff calls.
Yeah. So yeah, cutoff calls the 235.
So now you guys put in 470, so it's what 610 ish now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a little. I had it at 600, but I could be off
Okay.
by a few.
Okay. Yep.
So yeah. So the cutoff calls. We go to the turn, which is the 7 of clubs.
7 of clubs.
Yeah,
Okay.
7 of clubs. So
So you make
I
a
do
so you
not
make
have
a
a
low
straight
flush. Right. You
Yeah,
make a
I make a
low
low
flush. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So now I guess once I get continues on the flop, I could probably shrink his range down a good bit. I mean, it's not like I went small in the check raise. So I mean,
Mhm.
not that he's polar, but like I mean, I think I could probably cut out a good group of hands that he could see bet flop with.
Mhm.
So with that being said, that's why I decided to bet what I bet.
Mhm.
I bet 605, which was I had that at exactly pot in real time.
So here's the thing that I would say about this. And again, this is for me, this is off the top of my head. Again, I haven't gone into the solver streets a lot, like some other people, but I have learned. This is why sometimes, even if you don't think you're going to use this stuff, it's good to learn from these things.
Right.
What I have learned from some of these outputs is that when you have a super, super nut changing card like this, when you take a look at what your check raising range is on the flop, you realize that 9-8 and sets would not want to take this sizing on the turn like this when a club comes after getting called. So I do think I think this off the top of my head is an odd sizing. When the club comes in, I think it's an odd sizing to take.
Yeah, it is. I have ran the hand through just through GTO Wizard, but
Yeah. And what does it say?
It doesn't like the big sizing whatsoever.
Yeah,
It just wants
that's
me to-
kind
it
of
just
what I
wants me to
figured.
go. It's like pure half pot, and then like they
Uh-huh.
mix some like third pots, and then they mix some 75% pots. But they're not really doing any over betting whatsoever
I mean, here's the thing too. Like if you
or pot size betting.
take this over bet sizing of like our full pot sizing here on the turn, and let's say that he had bet called with like jacks or queens with a club,
Mm-hmm.
I guess if he gets there, I guess he still has to call. the pot size with the club. Jacks picks a gut shot to a 10 too. It would just suck to like get some crazy folds with like a red ace king. Like you don't really want to make a red ace king indifferent here, right? Or
No,
red
I
aces,
agree, and that's what I
right?
was thinking about after the fact.
Yeah.
That's why I wasn't. I, I did like my bet sizing just because I wanted to go polar because I know a lot of this player has seen me like run some like massive bluffs. Like we have played like some really crazy pots against each other. So like maybe my line was like a little more exploitative than it should have been, but I after the fact I was like thinking about his range as a whole, and I was like maybe not loving the overbet sizing, but
Hmm.
not hating it at the same time because I know this player specifically could be continuing with my like against this sizing against a lot of hands that I dominate. I guess not a lot of hands, but like there's a good group of hands that he can continue with and get really sticky on the turn. And I kind of wanted to just charge those hands.
Well,
And if
he's
he
obviously
found some
I mean, obviously he's going to continue with the ace of clubs, right?
right,
I don't
exactly. So
know.
I mean,
So aces with the ace of clubs, ace king with the ace of clubs. I mean, really to this sizing, I don't know what else. And then you just don't really get those calls from a non-club hand. Did he
well, I mean
continue?
all the sets as well, right?
Yeah, sets too. You're right. Yeah, sets too.
Yeah.
Did he continue?
Yes, he did. He
Okay, so
called
cut off
turn.
calls. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
So this is where like the hand got really interesting, and this is what I've been going back and forth with a not a bunch of people. It's not even like it wasn't really a debate because honestly I don't love it. I just feel like I blundered the situation. But this is what I wanted the most advice on is the river.
by the way, so 1820 and the you guys have put in 840, like right around 900. So I think you have like 22ish and the pot's like 18 to 1850 if I'm doing the math right.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so what's the
That's
river?
correct.
Yeah.
The river just comes like the ugliest card. I mean, I at least when he continues, I kind of have him on a like I said a narrow range like ace king, ace of clubs, aces, ace of clubs, and then all the sets. And that's pretty much it. I don't know how sticky he gets with jacks and queens with a club. I mean, maybe sometimes, but probably not too frequent. But okay, so the river comes in nine of diamonds, pairs the board.
Nine of diamonds.
Um,
Okay.
yes. So
People in the
now I
live
just
chat, people in the live chat that seem to think that it was going to come like eight of clubs. That would well, eight of clubs would have been a good card for you. That
yeah,
would have made you the
eight of
straight
clubs
flush.
would have been pretty nice for
Yeah, I guess
sure.
there is no board pairing club that can come because it would be the eight of clubs. I thought, yeah. So it's a nine of diamonds. So obviously the board pairs, right? Less
Correct.
combinations of. This is a better card. There's less of a chance that he has a full house. Let me think of that. Is that true? I was gonna say there's less of a chance that he has a full house now than if the seven pairs, but that's yeah. I guess that's true. It depends on how
Yeah,
if
no,
you have
that
nine eight.
I think it definitely, I think
Yeah,
it's definitely true
yeah,
because
yeah.
like obviously,
Nines and
yeah,
eights. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So he'll have less full houses now with
Right,
the nine.
right. Yeah.
Honestly, I think he would have less full houses. Or I think the nine is probably taking away more full houses than the eight. Or maybe I'm saying that wrong. Maybe I'm just getting too
If he
deep
ever
in the
has king
weeds.
nine, you mean? If you ever three bets king nine here?
I was just trying to think like what what card takes away more boats, the nine or the eight? But I guess that doesn't really matter too much. I guess it does, but
Well, if he doesn't three bet king eight and he sometimes three bets king nine, then it's a nine,
yeah,
right? I
right,
mean,
right,
that's
correct.
where you just kind of see it if you three bet to eight nine. All right, so again, you've got just I mean, pot and a quarter, right? Or
Yeah,
a little bit less than that, and now you're sort of looking at this, and it's like,
yeah, we don't
you.
love
I
it
think you might have run out
because
of value here.
yeah, I agree.
No,
And this is where I think I like really screwed it up. So my thinking is like, okay, like if I were to check and face a bet, which I would think to be a sizable bet, I think in theory it's gonna just be pure check call. And I was right in the moment, from what like the wizard says. But
the
um
only thing I would say about that though, if this is where I think the wizard can be misused. And again, I'm saying all of this stuff off the cuff, although I think I was right about the sizing on the turn is that the wizard is going to say that some hands here that the villain has with some club in it gets turned into a bluff on the river, which the live player is not going to find at the end.
so yeah,
Maybe
yeah, so that's
queens with
like
the
a
club,
key.
maybe jacks with the club. I don't
Yeah.
know if aces with the ace of clubs or ace king with the ace of clubs is too far up. but there's going to be some clump of hands that are bluffed that the wizard finds that the live player does not, which would then mean that the wizard says, oh, it's check call. Whereas I can say that you might check fold, depending on the villain, you know?
So yeah, so I can agree with that because the wizard does find those bluffs, specifically the aces with the ace of clubs and ace king with the ace of clubs. Now, with that being
Really?
said,
That far up? Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does. That's like the main. Those are like the main two hands,
That makes sense
actually.
with something. Yeah. Ace king with the ace. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense with the king in his hand.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I said so. Okay, so this is I don't know. You're gonna tear me up. So I like block. I block for 625 on the river into
Oh man, I mean,
1800.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. So hero bet 625. I don't know what kind of player this is, but it's almost asking. It's the
No,
only,
I,
the
I,
only,
I
the only, the only. So the only case for blocking here, the times that blocking would be the right play, would be if the
so
opponent
yeah.
is gonna call with worse, right, and never bluff. He's gonna call with worse on a hand that so actually it's three things. He's going to call with a hand that he'll check behind, and you're good, right? And he'll never bluff. Well, two to three things. That would be the case for blocking here.
Right. So yeah, so I've talked to like multiple people about this. So I was thinking in real time, like, okay, like yeah, we've played some big pots against each other. We've ran some sick bluffs against each other. But for me to bet at like I guess if there's someone that could find the bluffs, it could be him. But I just I really felt like I could bet and then confidently fold river against a jam, and at the same time still target hands like ace king with the ace of clubs that might not find the bluff, and just specifically just as like, okay, I don't believe him, I'm gonna call. Then can get sticky against 33% pot.
Here's the thing
Same
that
thing
I'm
with
gonna.
ace of
I mean, I
clubs.
understand what you're thinking, but I'm gonna simplify why I don't like the play here too. Not even just based upon what he can have.
Right.
You're not gonna have any full houses over betting the turn. I don't think on that turn card. There lies the problem. Are
Yeah,
you
very
really
true.
gonna bet 605 with a set with nine
And when the
eight?
club
Which
comes in
yeah, so that's
and the
really where
seven.
you open yourself up. You know?
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't even think that's the first. This is the first time I thought about that
Yeah.
specifically.
I mean, that's
So my sizing
clearly
on
the
the
simple.
turn can really screw me up on the river too.
Well, that's why I wouldn't like doing this. You know what I mean? It's because again, it's usually the hand's already a little bit off the rails. Maybe not necessarily in the worst way, but just off of equilibrium through the sizing. So you're already deviating
Right,
right on the turn.
right.
So what happened? Did he jam or what?
Yeah, he ripped,
So what's your
and then I
pot
was
odds here? So six
so
twenty five.
it
So
was
20.
fit. It was
So
fit. So I think I'm pretty
sixty
sure the
six.
number was 1550 to call.
So 1550 to call. So he's putting in 21. So 24 plus 21. 24 plus 20. So it's 45.15 for you to call. Yeah, you guys start, or somewhere around there. You start with 3,100.
Yeah,
Yeah, give or take, right? Because you'd be
yeah,
like 6,000 total, 15 to
right.
call. I mean, like I said, at this point, the only reason to call is because you think you've induced this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because you think you've induced it and you think that the guy is capable.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. So I mean, my plan going into the river, like with the bet sizing, was like thinking like, is he really gonna dig deep and find this bluff? Which he's could, I guess, but I was like, I really just feel like it would be like suicidal maybe against someone who like he would think is gonna over. I mean, I don't know if he thinks I'm gonna overcall, but I don't know. So I just really didn't think that he could find the bluff.
mhm.
So my plan was to just bet fold, which I did. I like had a funeral for my hand for a minute
Again,
and ended up
again, so that approach of block would be correct in this situation if your opponent never bluffed and would call with worse that would otherwise check behind. Then this is the correct bet. But that makes a lot of assumptions. And again, the issue that I have is going back to, like I said, you really don't have boats because of the large turn bet sizing. So you did fold. So hero fold. Did you get a reveal?
he didn't show in real time, but like we're pretty close out off the table. We talk a lot and
Uh huh.
like not like I don't know, but we talk pretty often. He told me he had kings. So he had kings, full nines. But
I mean, I
I
will
don't
say
know.
that in a 1-3 game. I mean, this is 1-3-6. I don't know how often. Maybe Michael G can speak to this too. Maybe he can put in the comment. I'll tell Michael G when this video goes up. I mean, there's probably not many players because I remember I know that Rivers and Philly like they don't get anywhere near the game as a Parks does, right? Like it's not.
No,
No. So are the games like tend to be probably somewhat more recreational? I would take it then at Rivers.
very,
Yeah.
very.
So I mean, it's not crazy to think that this guy he's just not capable of bluffing. I mean, how many guys are
Yeah,
capable of bluffing with Ace King here at a 1-3 game in somewhat of a wrecked up game? I mean, that's not out of the realm. I mean, that's not illogical thinking, right? So,
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I guess if there was any player I should have given credit to be able to find sick bluffs, it is him. But like, even with that being said, in this specific scenario, I didn't feel like he was going to be finding the bluffs. Like,
so this guy in the live chat says no one is finding a bluff here. Don't worry. I mean, I don't know about no one. I tend to
there's
somewhat
people out
agree.
there that are definitely finding the bluff.
Sure, maybe not in this game, but again,
Just
I will say that your block at the end might not look as bad as it is like to some people here on paper if he's going to call with worse and if he's never going to bluff. Now we can find people that are never going to bluff in this spot, and if you think that you can get $600 of value from Ace King or Aces at the end, it's not as bad as it looks if those assumptions are correct. So I'll leave you with
yeah.
that. Thanks very much for the call. I appreciate it.